All right, folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this study session for the ACP-420. I think I got the numbers right this time. Go me. This is an extension of last Monday's incident management session. There was so much in there, we decided to do a second one just to make sure we could get into everything. Last week, I think we covered off how to create our incident management team. Got rid of the static. Awesome. If you could let me know real quick in chat if you can hear me, that would be very helpful. Always paranoid my audio is down. Otherwise, we're going to follow our same pattern. We're going to just take a quick look at a very short slide deck and I'll also talk about my experience with the exam last week, which I still haven't confirmed if I passed or failed. So I'll share those results with the team. But otherwise, we're just going to jump into it and get started. If I can find my slide deck. Quick reminder for the group, I'm Rob. I am in the house. Thank you, Frank. Good to see you, Chad. I've been using Jira about 10 years. I don't have a lot of time. So I started these study sessions to help me learn more about Jira. All of my learning has been hands-on. And that is great because I learn the things that I learn and I don't learn the things that I don't do. So studying for the certification exam has exposed me to other areas of the system that I use that I have to use. Frank, you're jumping ahead here, my friend. We'll find out in a few moments. Or maybe we won't. Maybe I'll keep you all in suspense even longer. Quick reminders on interaction. Please use that chat. Some of you have found it already, or my regulars know where it is. It should just be to my right. But please use that to ask questions, ask for clarification, or if you have an answer, or if you know something, please share it with the group. One of the favorite things for me in this is to see the folks in chat help each other. This is not just about Rob telling you what Rob knows, which is a good amount of stuff, but not everything. It's about all of you helping each other out. So please keep sharing. Rohit, welcome. Frank's thinking about doing the ACP-420 beginning next month. Awesome. Were you thinking of taking it then or continuing your study? And I'll talk about my approach to setting up the exams. Like I mentioned, we're doing more incident management. So incidents being those things that cause problems. I'm so smart that I'm crying, Kari? What's going on? And Justin, I could have made it a lot worse. I've had people DM me on LinkedIn and stuff trying to figure out what happened. I took the exam. I felt good about my attempt. I'll leave you there. Okay, now it's a moment of truth, and I apologize if I blow anyone's ears out of the water with this next thing. Yay! I passed. Thank you. Thank you for the applause. Thank you for the cheering. That makes me feel good. Yeah, I got an 84%, and this is the email you get almost right away. I had some people ask, do you not know if you passed or not yet? And the good and bad thing about these certification exams is if you do them in person or if you do them at home, you immediately get a result. So as soon as you hit end exam and hit confirm, the system will take about 10 seconds to process. And during that time is probably the most anxiety-ridden moment because the system is figuring out, doing whatever calculation. But then you immediately are told either congratulations or we're sorry, so you know. And these exams don't tell you what you got right or wrong. They won't say question 6. Instead, oh, thank you, everyone. Oh, the trophy has a face. That's awesome. They don't tell you which questions you got wrong. Instead, they break it down by exam areas. And so I can see from this that I clearly need more work on agent-facing features. That was my lowest single area at 64%. So this can suggest to me, hey, I need to go back into studying and figure out more about this. Whoopsies. More about this right here. I can also improve how to manage the knowledge base, notifications, those kind of things. Now, the exam, they give you 180 minutes, so 3 hours. I started about half hour early. I took it at home in this room, so I had to clean off my desk, which was honestly a good exercise. I found some things I'd lost. And it took about 20 minutes for the proctor, the person who makes sure you're not cheating and monitors you, to examine my space. So I took my camera and I pointed it at the desk, flipped over the keyboard, showed him a clear water bottle, followed all the rules, and then had 3 hours to take it. I am quick with these tests. It took me about an hour, and that included time for me to go back through questions. So my approach to these things is I will go through and answer all the questions, start to finish, unless I'm really not sure, and then I'll leave it blank. But typically I'll put an answer. And then you can flag a question. You can push a button that puts a little flag over it to remind you to come back to it. So if I don't know the answer, if I'm not certain, I flag it, even if I'm pretty sure. And what happened is out of 75 questions, I think it is, like 35 had a little flag on them. So I went back and I did those. And then after I went through all of those again, I still had some flags because I wasn't sure. And I kept going till the flags were gone. And then I randomly picked 10 or 15 questions to look at again, kind of just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Now, one thing about these questions is some of them will be similar or relate to each other. And so that can give you hints about other questions. So if I'm not sure about a question and I flag it and I keep going, like, oh, that seems familiar. Oh, wait, that reminds me. I can then go back and adjust my answer. Now, there's some argument that the first thing you want to do is just keep that first answer. But for me, I'll think through, and most of the questions you can logic your way through if you know enough about the system. And that's where my weakness on things like language translation was very weak. There were a number of questions on translating service desk. I was like, I've never used this feature. We didn't, cover it in depth in these courses. So that was a big reminder. There was a little bit about JQL, so we should study that. I've got a session tomorrow on that to really dig in. There was nothing on team versus company managed projects that I saw, which was interesting. But one thing to remember about these exams is when Atlassian makes them, they make enough questions for 2 or 3 or 4 exams. So when any of you take the ACP-420, you will get different questions than I got. Some of them might be the same, but a lot of them could be different. So you may end up with an exam that covers slightly different aspects. You'll still get the same distribution among these areas, but the exact questions you get will differ. Frank, it would be torture if you change most of the answers through the whole 3 hours. Yeah, everyone's different with their approach to it. Some folks want to and need to take those 3 hours. Other folks like myself happen to get through it. You could argue that's a weakness, that I go too fast and I don't think enough. And that certainly is true for younger Rob. I try to slow myself down, though, with those extra rounds of review to make sure I'm getting the best possible answer and I'm really thinking through the challenge. Taking it in my office was fine. I'll try to take the next one in a Proctor testing center just to see the difference. But it was just sitting here staring at the screen, not moving, talking, or doing anything pretty much for an hour. And then once you pass it, you get this nice badge that goes on community. And as Frank mentioned, there's a thing called the Atlassian Certified Expert. This is a designation where if you earn 4 of the professional series, you are also considered an Atlassian Certified Expert. I hope to get that eventually with this study series. I'll pick another one to do next, and then another one, and just keep this going. But that takes 4 ACP levels. There are similar designations on the associate level. It's like ITSM specialist and DevOps specialist. So depending on the combination of exams you pass, you can get an extra little boost to indicate a domain expertise. So that was my exam. It was good. I'll have more thoughts and keep sharing more on how it went. And some of the resources available on Atlassian that helped me quite a bit. Speaking of resources, that Atlassian page is still the best spot. Once I pop over to that, I'll show you what I spent the last 2 days before the exam studying. I honestly forgot when I had scheduled it, which was stupid of me. Please put calendar reminders. Is that rain? Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting it to start pouring rain. I like that. Do some good celebration. I will, Frank. But I spent the 2 days before it, I won't say cramming, but trying to identify what I was really missing. Speaking of, I still need y'all's help figuring out what is next. I've already selected the next ACA, but your feedback is always useful there. It'll be the ACA 915, which is Atlassian Cloud Foundations. And that helps groups understand how cloud works, like at a high level, subscriptions and user management and all that. You can also drop your feedback about how these sessions are going in there. But the big question is, what's the next ACP should this group do? Because we're going to end this series, it's like early June, late May. So we've only got 3 or 4 of these left to wrap up ACP-420. Popping over, we've got... Nope, not what I wanted. I want that one. Thank you, Tonya. I appreciate that. One of the biggest things that helped me, I'm just going into the Atlassian learning. Under prepping for free, at the bottom, they have this certification prep resources link. And this is where I spent most of my time last Monday and Tuesday studying. Because this, if you go into these lessons, has these hints. Now, I took these hints to mean you will probably run into this on the exam, so you should know it. It's not telling you, answers, but it's just reminding you, hey, it's important to know who can make a project. Or, where are the agent features? This is the area that I need more help on. Remember, SLAs are a thing. You should know those. Or how to turn on or off features. So I spent time going through this, and I wrote down each line, and then I just put a question mark in my notebook on, hey, I don't understand alerts. I don't understand how Zoom can be configured. And I actually need to go look this up. I think it can be integrated, question mark. That's still in the notebook. But these are the kinds of questions that show up on the exam. So I spent a lot of time through here. Each one of these 8 sections was 15 minutes, so that's 2 hours to go through it slowly. But I found this very beneficial and helped me identify my own knowledge gaps before I jumped into that exam. I then had to go hunt down the answers, but at least this helped me identify areas of potential weakness across the exam domains. Now they tell you at the top what percentage of the exam, so this is 5%, so you can focus your time on the bigger chunks. Frank suggests the certification PDF. I assume, Frank, you're referring to what shows up. The full exam details. This little PDF here. This is the full breakdown. Justin tried to enable MS Teams, Microsoft Teams. You forgot the $, and couldn't get it working. Yeah, and that's a frustration, Justin, for admins. There could be someone who sits behind a bigger desk, to use that joke, who is preventing you from doing what you want or need. So please drop other questions you have on the exam in there. When we hit the review session, which is the last one of the series, I'll dig more into, getting ready for the exam, some extra last-minute study tips, that kind of thing. But just wanted to share what I went through last Wednesday. And again, I felt good about doing it, and that to me was the important part. I felt prepared. I felt calm. I wasn't, waking up in a cold sweat and panicking. I happened to pass, which was great. That felt really good. But more important than me, going into it, I felt prepared and ready. And only 1 or 2 questions was a complete, I was completely stumped for only 1 or 2. So I felt good about that. Back to incident management. Morning, Kyther. Glad you can make it. I don't know if you missed my cute little gif of the confetti flying and all that, but I'll send it over later. We spoke about adding ITSM, IT Service Management, to it, and then building a team. Are we in the right thing? Yes. And we spoke a lot about responders and that kind of thing. Where is my project? Project settings. So I have to go under features, and that's a software project. That's the wrong project. Excuse me. Here we go. And we were under operations. Kythra joined the club, my friend. So under operations, we spoke a lot about this on call, which is where we wrapped up last week. And this is where Oh, you can see I'm on call. This is where we can define a group of individuals who will be available in case something goes horribly wrong. Um, we can set up schedules, so we can say, hey, when are shifts? And in this case, it's a 1 week on call rotation. Information about this did show up on the exam, how to manage these things. And I have 2 people in my team, so I can expand the schedule and just see what's going on. I'll put together more content around this exact feature. But I had to go to view all teams, and here I can see my team Jakewill. And I can dig into it to see what they call the routing rule. So this defines how Jira will alert people. It starts out with that on-call person, but there's backups. If that person doesn't respond, then the next person in line in 5 minutes gets an alert, and then the whole team gets an alert. So this really ties back to how does our team choose to operate? If someone's unavailable, how are they going to get alerted and who goes next? Because if an incident occurs, if something big happens and a system goes offline or we need to help, we have to have some order in which people are pulled in. Now, this is something that Jira can't tell you how to do, the escalation rules. Your team has to figure it out. But you have some ability to define these. So you might have notify an entire team. You might, randomly pick someone. That's kind of mean. Or you might have this escalate to another team. If after 15 minutes no one responds, you can keep bumping it. Can you specify other schedules? Let's add a schedule right now. We're going to call this, backup schedule. You'll notice this override in the middle. The override is if someone has to leave early or if they're out of office. So the base will be what we define. So our ideal state. Overrides would be, hey, Rob was out on Thursday, so Frank had to step in. And the final will be a combination of the two. So the base plus overrides is that final one. I'll add a rotation, and I'll have some participants. I'll pick other people or try to find other people. Is there a Matt in here? No. There's a Max. I'll take a Max. And as you can see, we can keep adding different rotations, different groups of people who we want to be included. I've got no one. There were questions about adding no one to a rotation, so just be aware that no one is a possible thing to insert. Ooh, Justin, I'd love to hear what this looks like with a real live team. I haven't had the opportunity to use this live yet, like with a real group. Is there a Tyler? I need to figure out who I have in here. Is there an Alex? Oh, I've got an Alexander. There we go. So I now have my backup schedule. So here I can see 2 separate schedules. And I'll go into my escalation policy. And if it's not acknowledged, I want to notify... my backup schedule. Oh, I have to save it, of course. Let's say 15 minutes. So what I've done here, Frank, is I've got my regular schedule, and maybe this is a more junior team or a less specialized team or team A. If none of them respond within 15 minutes, then a whole separate group of people can be pulled in. Oh, gotcha, Justin. So this would be if I have multiple teams working. I have these different schedules going on. And this is my description of this kind of stuff. But you can see in the escalation policy, as long as there's a schedule, it can be pulled in. Now, the schedule doesn't have to include people on the team, as we saw. And we can use the escalation rule to flag a number of different things. So if I go back to edit this and just add a rule, I can see who I can notify. A specific member, all members of a schedule, an entire team, the next member on rotation, the previous member, admins, users, etc. So I have different options in terms of who I'm going to call in. That's about where I am too, Kythra. I know this exists and I conceptually understand what's going on, but when I come in here and look at it, like my eyes kind of cross. Um, yep, Frank, this is very common where there's an on-call team, and you have people. I'll pick on software developers who are, every week they have to be on call to support things. But then you also might have, to your point, an incident manager who has their own schedule, and they're kind of the emergency backup, if you will, or they're always on call and they always get looped in, that kind of thing. Uh, Now, going on the top, there's a whole bunch of other integrations and things. I won't dig too deep into these here. Again, I'll try and do some follow-ups to dig into what all these do. But these are just different ways to connect information into the on-call. Heartbeats, for example, are an interesting concept in tech where a system will send a signal, and if that signal stops, like if the heart rate goes flat, a server went offline or something. So these regular pings can also alert things. But another thing we need to consider are these alert policies. How are messages sent, or what messages are sent? So I have a policy here called, the system is down. Does anyone get that reference? And I'm just curious because this is something for me in like late grade school, high school in the States. A description. But then we can have different alerts that are sent out based on this policy. So a specific message, who the responders are, what the priority of it is, any tags around it. And so we can use these things to help define what information is sent out to who to when. It is not system of a down. Kythra's, I think, on the right track here, given where those ellipses are. Stefan, good guess. I like System of a Down as a musical group. The reference, the system is down. The system is down, is a different reference, though. We also have notification policies. Excuse me. One thing to consider with on-call, too, is maintenance. You can take a system offline for a planned maintenance thing, and that's not an incident, right? So this allows us to have the plan within our on-call, our ops. I'm aware this exists. I haven't played with it enough yet, but it lets you have in windows of time where you can expect the system to be offline, preventing the incident. It is not Rage Against the Machine. And funny story there, Rage Against the Machine, RATM, is their... RATM, Rage Against the Machine, is their acronym, and I thought it meant really annoying techno music for a while. That was very embarrassing. It's from an online comic called Homestar Runner, which is, I don't know if it still exists or not. Good question, LND. Does every user need to be an agent for on-call rotation participant? I don't know offhand. Let's pick Alexander Post. I don't believe... Now, you'll notice that operations is not under the project. So this is something else to consider. When I went into operations, it took me to a whole different area. So Alexander Post is not part of Project JQuil JSM. And I'm going to go into people and access and go find them. And I'm the only person in there. I'm both a customer and an admin for some reason. So Alexander can be added to that rotation. Yes, Kythra, strong bad. And the cheat, I believe, was involved in that one. Excuse me. You have to... I'll have a follow-up on that LSD. Was it LSD? Sorry, LND, apologies. Just to figure out the access. But I believe you just need a Jira license. Yeah, I think Frank's got it. The operations would be not on the support side. They'd be on the dev side. So they'd have a Jira license, but they don't necessarily need a JSM license or an agent role. Ops. Of course. This is an area that I'm interested in, just to learn about this stuff. I'm going to keep going for the purpose of time. Um, but the biggest things I saw in the exam around this were, handling schedules and rotations, adding a no one. I didn't know that was possible. Um, and then someone had asked about roles. You can make custom roles in here that give access to do things like update routing rules, update schedules. So you can delegate some of this to other folks. Oh, Kyther, thanks for getting Strong Bad going. And we do have a Discord server going on if folks want to join. The goal with that is to give folks a place to go for support or just share ideas or just have fun in between these sessions. Links in the chat, and Kyther's hooked us up with some Strong Bad. I think agents might make sense if a particularly annoying or challenging customer is demanding a manager. So yeah, we can, and this came up, just bringing this up because it came up at the start. The admins aren't stuck doing all of this. If your team's big enough, please make a rule that allows someone else to go update schedules to handle things like out of office or PTO. And you have some pretty good granularity in terms of what can be done with these roles. That can then be assigned out and given to people. All right. So now that we've got these folks, we need to add responders onto tickets. And this is the connection between operations, or can be a connection between operations and people. Come on. There's a ticket. Anyone have any server wax? We got to speed this thing up. Responders. Oh, I need an incident, don't I? Yes, I do. This did trip me up on the exam, just remembering which things are features. So it's beneficial to just have in mind, incident management has to be turned on. And there are other things in here that you need to actively flip on to get to work. And there will be questions around if something's unavailable, what is the most likely reason? Okay, add a request type. Oh, here we go. The system is down. Perfect. And you'll also notice that I had to add a default issue type for incidents. This was something else that came up. Why is an incident missing? Yes. Here we go. Oh, sorry, I need my portal group, of course. Bloop. Knowing that a request type has to be part of a portal group is also good to know. Subtle hint there. Here we go. So I'm going to go just make an incident real quick. The system is really down, and create. All right, so these, yes, incidents have some additional fields. And here I can see that Zoom. It can integrate with Zoom. Please know that. I didn't know that on the exam, and I think I just choked on a question because of it. I know Slack integrates and Teams. I've never used Zoom in Jira. So just another weakness of mine. I happen to not have done it. But Kythra, do you know why the cheat is called the cheat? Dun, dun, dun. So we've got stakeholders that can be connected. I need to update the incident. So we can connect additional people to an incident to get them information. And my Zoom is being annoying not working. So I can't zoom in on that. Some of those are responders, and these are people who will get an alert, but are kind of expected to like manage the thing. So I might have Rob be a responder. This is different than the reporter and assignee. It's a different group of individuals who will be connected to this incident and be expected to respond and work on it. Now, I can add stakeholders, and these would be people who want to be informed. So my boss might be a stakeholder. Or if I'm working in HR and the payroll system goes offline, the head of people operations and the head of payroll might be stakeholders. So they're folks who will get an alert about the thing. And you'll notice really quickly down here at the bottom, right on top of my giant fat head, excuse me, let me zoom that head out of the way. Whee! There's a little thing saying we're going to connect you to Ops Genie. And so that's the operations tool. So this is where I've got an incident, and that now connects back to, well, great, this doesn't go anywhere I wanted it to. It goes back into my operations tool to let me set up those alerts. So I have a tab here called alerts now, that if I open this up, I'll be able to define the messages that have gone out. And so this is what the responders would get. So I can acknowledge it, I can close it, I can assign it to myself, I can add more people. So these are just additional, here, let's open this thing up. I can see that this is the alert and this is the ticket that came in. And that was 3 minutes ago. And it's giving me more information about the incident to respond to it. Again, this isn't the ticket. This is an alert. So it looks like a Jira ticket. It's not. So it's saying I can acknowledge it, close it, and snooze it. So this is what can get sent out in addition to the regular notifications on it. But it's another way to alert more people. It requires some setup because I've got to add the stakeholders. Tonya, request participants is very similar. Request participants gives folks access to the portal view, which is this thing. So it's a different set of information, but it can do something very similar. You can add the right people who need to know. The challenge for me is that's a separate field. And if I have a team who's focusing just on incident response and incident management, I'm going to put them in as a responder because they'll be using Jira slightly differently. However, the request participants gets people that information. Ops Genie is operations. I think they just integrated the tool. So you'll see operations all over the place in the same way you'll see that word that starts with I that I'm not allowed to say out loud in places, even though they're not called work items. So just be aware that Ops Genie was the name of the tool before it got integrated and sucked in. HALP is, for those of you who don't know, HALP, H-A-L-P, is a way of spelling help. I don't know where it originated. It got pulled into my brain at some point. Is stakeholders responders available for folks who don't have a license? I don't believe responders are. And actually, if you notice here under responders, I can see that Rob, is that because I've acknowledged it? Selena hasn't responded at all. Rob has. Stakeholders. I want to go update the incident. Yes, please update. I can start linking alerts. Yes, I would like to do that, please. Oh, interesting. Well, I can pop it out. Sure. Yeah. Oh, bonus points if anyone gets what Kyther is referencing here. We're going down a meme rabbit hole, team. Welcome to the ride. I will need to figure that out, Tonya. I don't know offhand. I imagine, I'm going to assume responders, yes, because the responder is expected to take action. Stakeholders, I'd want to go double check. Because in my mind, you're just notifying them, right? You're just letting the stakeholder know, hey, a thing happened, versus expecting that someone will have to take action. Now, you'll notice incidents have their own set of queues. So I've got open incidents, my incidents, major, and resolved. Jira has this definition of a major incident versus just an incident. Sure, You'll see this pop up in terminology and things. Um, a major incident impacts more things. But again, this is up for each team to figure it out. Justin, Ratja. What is Ratja? You're using a four-letter acronym, an FLA. But yes, you are correct, my friend. One thing about incidents, and this is my teams I've worked on have never done this, but you can link them to a lot of things. You'll notice under more fields, we have things like the source of the incident, the operational categorization, the product categorization, the urgency, the impact, impacted hardware, affected services. We have all of these different things that we can connect to it to help us understand what's going on. And so for the exam, understand that, the incident ties different things together. This tells the team, hey, the billing service was impacted by this thing. And then based on that service, we can then go alert service owners, or based on the tier, we can have some other action happen. We can have all these other things occur if we set the system up properly. Yes, Return of the Jedi. Nailed it, Justin. I need to find some way to add like a point system to these. Points will be available for fabulous prizes, of course. Something like that where I can give out arbitrary points, kind of like Harry Potter. 10 points to Gryffindor, Justin. Excuse me. We'll talk about assets, I think, in a session or two, so I won't dig into them. But assets also came up, and they relate to incidents. That was an interesting rabbit hole, just adding responders. The assignee is automatically a responder. That's good to know. The green check mark means that person has acknowledged. So if I am managing the incident, I want to watch these responders to make sure that they're doing their job and that they're responding and doing things. But that green check also lets me know, go to Andrea. Like, make sure Andrea's hooked up and has information. An incident post-mortem. There is a feature that is relatively new. Related resources is one. That uses, I'm pretty sure, AI, Atlassian Intelligence. But if I go into my project settings, under features, post-incident reviews. So this is a built-in feature. You have to be in premium or higher. Apparently, I need a template to make this work. We'll just call it blank. That'll perfect. Or we need a request type. But the post-incident review, oh, I like that, Frank. You're playing with the acronym. And this is exactly why I ask people to define acronyms. What else could it mean? So while we're talking about operations, let part of your brain spin on other definitions for ROTJ. Read only the jam. That's a bad one. That doesn't make any sense. But there's this feature we can turn on that can put the review directly on the incident. So this is a way of closing the gap in my mind between having my team have to go into Confluence to write something up and just having them drop it straight on a ticket. So there's other things we can do in Jira to keep everything in Jira, Frank. Typically, I go make a Confluence page and I link them. That's what I currently do. But that feature can tie it directly onto the page. Okay. We got to keep moving. We got a lot to do. Integrating with a repository. Again, the focus here is mainly on code. So a repository is where all of our code base exists. This will be typically in a software project, or in my mind, typically these are in software projects. You can map repositories to services though. So for example, if I have a payroll system, I can map all the code of that payroll system to this service, and that service can connect to the incident. So this can let my team know, hey, this is where to go to look for things. Now these integrations are helpful. Again, it closes the gap between there's a problem with payroll and where do we go? We can just flag it right there. Many groups use GitHub. Atlassian has Bitbucket, their version. It's a repository where we can create repositories to help organize things. We don't have to be Bitbucket experts for this. We just have to be aware that they can link into the incident or link into a service, then the incident, to help us track things. We can connect these repositories under code, and this is in the software project side. So this goes outside of Jira Service Management, but something that we need to keep in mind where if we're monitoring an incident, we'll have resources outside of JSM, Jira Service Management. Work item keys can help link it. Okay, we find the key. And this is, again, something my development team would use. I wouldn't expect a Jira admin, unless they happen to be a software developer, to know how to check out code and create branches and commit changes. Can you get a direct overview or dashboard per service? I find it hard to believe we couldn't, Frank. Let me write that down. Dashboard. And the reason I say I find that hard to believe is we couldn't get it is because it's all in Jira, and they do have reporting. So let me run with that. Again, I don't know offhand because I haven't used it before. So you're helping me uncover a weakness and improve. Thank you, sir. Development panel keeps track of the code that's been connected to a certain ticket. Again, something that I usually don't use. Let me see if I can find one real quick. All tickets, test. Do I have it turned on? We'll just use the stock image. So looking at a ticket, you can see what code might be connected. I didn't run into any questions about this on the exam. However, there's a large bank of questions, so you might. So looking at this will probably be useful just to understand at a high level what these things are. It does, Frank. You and I think it does. That doesn't mean the nice people at Atlassian necessarily agree with us. But I'll try to figure it out for you. Admins must connect and configure Jira and dev tools. So if it's not there, you got to talk to a project admin. Creating a branch, essentially your own copy of code to work on when you're changing something. So just be aware that you can create the branch directly within Jira. And that they can commit to it. So the intention here is it makes it easier for developers to link the changes they're making to the specific incident or ticket. So it lets you, again, track it in one spot. When the incident occurs, or when you're developing something, your team is just in one place. They don't have to run all around. And then commits are the new code that someone is essentially saving to the system. I'm vastly oversimplifying. But I can see here there's been one branch, so there's been one copy of it, and there's been 3 updates, or 3 changes to it made by my development team. And then I can go in and see what was changed. The other thing, I'm blitzing through this, but I always recommend do these little sample questions. These are similar to the questions you'll see on the exam. The exact question probably won't be there, but the phrasing, the terminology, the experience of this is very useful because this will simulate the exam for you. Integrating tools, they use Bitbucket. Again, this is Atlassian's system of choice, so it'll be in here. There can be other tools integrated, though, for dev. I think GitHub's the big one, question mark. You do something with your payment service, the system goes offline, you have an incident. Because it's been linked, responders can see the deployment that was just pushed, and they can go figure out what happened. So again, this is a little bit of, it is extra work, an extra setup. However, it gives your team the breadcrumbs and the ability to go back and figure out what's going on. Or what maybe happened to it. Incident investigation. Well, yes, very helpful. Again, deployments help. You'll have this information about the impacted service. And they actually have an investigate feature. Where did my incident go? It's really down. Help. Up at the top, I've got this button that just says investigate. This is looking at code. So this doesn't really help in this example because we're not connected to anything. But what it's telling me, or what this chart would tell me, is when things happened. There was a successful deployment on the 7th, and then there was a failed deployment on the 8th, and it thinks that that one has the potential cause. So this is one way Jira can help, kind of like Frank's question about metrics over downtime for services. Jira is trying to figure out, based on data, where is the problem. So when an incident occurs, my team can come in here and see a cause or see what's occurred. Ooh, I have a little error. What's going on? Oh, billing has an open incident. That's what this little is telling me. And this is something else that's important to understand. There might be a question around, Billy wants to investigate something. Why can't he see that button? It's only on the incident work type. So again, going back to what features are turned on and what work types are available, we just have to know as admins, hey, it's the incident work type. Status page, if you've ever been to like status.jira.com or something, this is a way to set one of those up for your systems. So someone can go to, the status page is the name of the tool. They can go to a status page and see what's going on. I don't think I've used this. I definitely haven't used this personally, but these are all good things, or this is a good thing to set up, especially if you're in software. And I'll drop a link to more information right here. But it's a way of just putting information out there so folks can self-serve and go check themselves what's going on. I use this a lot if like Slack, I can't access Slack or something. It helps me figure out, is the problem on my end or someone else's end? And while I'm doing this, if I go to status.slack.com, this is similar to a status page from Jira. So they've set it up to tell me, are there any known issues? The status page does something similar. I wonder if there's a status.jira.com. Nope. Status.atlassian.net. Nope. Well, I'll see if I can find the one for Atlassian, but many companies have that just to let folks check themselves, is there an issue? And here we can see a screenshot of it. We can see a status update right in the portal, not the help center. The help center is the top level, but I can see right in the portal that the primary server is offline, and I can click in for more information. So there's just a way of making sure my customers are aware of what's going on so they don't think they're going insane if something doesn't work properly. Okay, they're talking about automations. There were questions about automations on the exam. I won't go through this entire page because this focuses just on ideas and use cases to it. This is good just to have in our back pocket or to know that it exists. How to approach an automation is important to know. You'll get questions around what's going to happen when this automation triggers or how does it work. But if your team uses incident management, definitely take a look at these specific ones that they're sharing because these can help, teams that have incident management set up. So for this particular session, I'm going to go through this one because for the exam, we just need to understand generic automations. But for practical use, that's probably a good section to go through. Frank is saying status page is a bit clunky. Thank you for that feedback, Frank. I haven't used it. I might go tinker with it in a test environment. I guess if you have nothing, it's better than nothing. Life cycles of an incident. Here they dig into specific tools. They can help us figure out what they call major incidents. So that's again, these definitions are hard, and as long as your team understands your definitions, that's the important part. But something that impacts a lot of services or everything goes offline. It starts out with there's a ticket. I can't pay for something. And then you classify and respond. So an agent would come in here and identify what services are impacted, what's the urgency, and is this a major incident? You'll notice there's a checkbox on the side where the agent might say, oh yeah, this meets our definition of major incident. So a human would look at this work item and go, okay, I've got some information on it. Yes, we got to escalate this thing. Next, we might have our on-call schedule kick in. So an incident is declared, and then the team gets all these alerts. Next, we might have those alerts go out. So we've set this up under incidents or operations. And this will be the place our agents would go to just kind of keep track of everything that's going on. So my team could come into these alerts and say, oh, geez, there's an incident that hasn't been acknowledged. Or maybe this one can be closed. This one's done. I'll acknowledge this alert, and I'll go in and start working on it. So at this stage of the incident, the team is, what's the term I'm looking for? Like assembling. I was thinking like they're the Avengers. They're all going to get together and start figuring out what's happening. They mentioned a communications officer. On big incidents, we've spoken about an incident commander. It's important to have very clearly defined roles. Rob, you're going to handle communications. Frank, you're going to be responsible for the responders. Kaithra, you're going to be responsible for managing the incident ticket itself. So Rob, in this case, would handle that status page to make sure that external customers know what's going on in a timely fashion. Status page, can add those messages to the portal. That's great. And then I've got those stakeholders who I've added. You'll notice in this screenshot, there is a special comment, essentially. Usually we only have an internal note customer, but we have one for informed stakeholders. So we can send messages just to those identified stakeholders that, hey, something's going on. And here's special information for you, head of payroll, or for you, head of this service. Investigate and recover. So the process might be we set up a Slack channel, and that gets tied back to the incident. Assets are investigated to figure out. And again, we'll talk about assets. I think it's in 2 weeks to dig in to see how Jira Service Management and assets connect. So the assets are the services or physical things or people in our organization that might be involved. And they can have their own dependencies. There were a few questions on assets. Again, a weakness for me because I've never used it. But I was able to logic my way, I think, through them successfully. Like just sit down and figure out how should this work. If you are integrating a repository, this will also be part of this investigate. So again, we're responding to the incident. The responders go in and they look at any code that's been deployed and where might there be problems. This last stage is super important. My background is in project management, and many teams don't do this, but we need to sit down and learn from the incident. It's called a post-mortem usually, and improve. And so the point isn't to blame Rob for the failure. It's for the team to sit down and say, hey, okay, this code deployment happened and it accidentally broke something. Or, hey, we turned on this new service and that brought the system offline. Or, hey, customers in Algeria couldn't access the server properly due to some reason. Let's be stronger for next time. And that's where, Frank, you had asked about, oh, they're just going to yada yada their way through it? Oh, fine. You can do that post-incident review directly on the work item. This might also be done separately in Confluence, but the purpose here is to keep it all within Jira. So we've got that post-incident review feature that we can turn on to have directly in the system. Oh, much talking. Other questions, team. Feels like the chat went very quiet. I can't tell if you're just overwhelmed with this knowledge or if y'all got bored or, I don't know, y'all just aren't here anymore and I'm alone talking to myself. And that's okay. You don't have to use the chat. All right. Now they're going to talk about Atlassian Intelligence. Again, this is premium and up on cloud. Again, I haven't used AI within incident management. So interesting to see how this works. Grouping alerts. Now, this to me is just some kind of pattern recognition. If we get a lot of alerts, we can use the AI to try and figure out what's going on or how are these things related. Because again, an alert just means, hey, something happened. And maybe we don't have to respond to all those alerts, but we want to start to figure out what's going on in there. Chad ran out of coffee. I am sorry, my friend. If anyone wants to be an official coffee sponsor of the channel, please let me know. I have my wonderful Zelda mug, and I am almost out of coffee myself. Tonya uses AI for writing automations. That's my biggest use case, Tonya. That and search in Jira. What it's doing here in incident management is trying to figure out how are these alerts related? Is the AI seeing patterns in the data that can help us figure out what's going on and can it group them so our team isn't overwhelmed? So in this example, there were 32 alerts about checkouts. And so it's going to make that one thing for us to look into because they're all related, which is kind of cool. Yes, we've declared an incident. We are out of coffee. The other place AI can help us is with that post-incident review. And it can suggest a description, which is kind of cool. I don't know how good it will be, but it can be a starting point. Again, especially for bigger incidents, there's a lot of data. I like to write these myself, like by hand. Oh no. Now we're talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Excuse me. I like to write incident summaries by hand. It forces me to think through what happened and why. However, that takes a long time, and not everyone has the time to do that. So automatically generating summaries is probably a good use of AI to help identify these things. Tonya, you're very welcome, my friend. Oh wow, and we're like out of time. There are some best practices in here for incident management, like how do we avoid them. This kind of stuff I didn't see too much on the exam. Please go through it though. This is just good knowledge to have, and it's something I'm going to review, probably more than the technical stuff, because all of the stuff in here is around the tool. It's how we use the tool, so I can use it anywhere. We don't have to be using Jira necessarily, but it also improves how I use the tool because I'll understand why I need a severity matrix or how automations can help. As Tonya mentioned, they're setting them up. We are about out of time. Let me get my talking head back here. For the exam, I highly recommend picking a date and scheduling it if you haven't. So if you want to take it, look at a calendar and go schedule it in a month to give yourself time, or in a few weeks. For me, having that on the calendar forced me to get ready and forced me to actually do it. So Tonya, I definitely recommend pick a date, give how comfortable you are in a few weeks, in a month maybe, just to put it down so you do it. But please keep engaging. You're not going to get everything you need just from these sessions, so please go study on your own. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I've got just other tips about Atlassian stuff, not just ACP-420. And again, we're running out of topics for ACP-420, so we'll see what comes up next. But please keep letting me know what you're interested in, what you want to learn. And of course, jump into that Discord. That's a great place to hang out. Next week, I think we're talking about something else around ACP-420. You're welcome, Gabes. Scott, Susan, thank you so much for coming. But thank you all for joining me. Tomorrow I've got a session on JQL, one of my more favorite topics. Yes, I'm going to make it happen, the correct pronunciation. So jump into that or watch the recording. That does show up on 420 and other exams. But thank you all for learning with me. I'll keep the chat open for a bit for any last minute questions, but have a great Monday morning. And I'll see you soon.